Hello all, welcome back to Bosco Campus Vision. So we are with the first module of the paper, English for the Media, and today we'll have a discussion on interviews. As per the syllabus that is prescribed for your study, we'll be covering all these topics today, and I'll just read through them so that you get familiar with these topics. First, the skills that are needed for conducting an interview. Then the languages used, the phrases that are used for the interview for introductions, interrupting, markers for buying time to elicit more clarity, how to use linguistic ploys, and the use of connectives to help progression and continuity, use of the right pace, punctuating explanations using the right words, the art of questioning, and its overall philosophy. Moving on to the first topic, interviews. What do you mean by an interview? The word interview has been derived from the French word interview, which means between sight. Interviews are considered as the lifeblood of journalism. Good reporting is about 80% interviewing. Interviews have the power to change minds, governments, and even history. So, interviews they have the power to influence people, influence their thinking, and even their act. So, interviews they have the power to change minds, governments, and even history. They are the voice of the people involved directly in the stories that make up the news. So, interviews are the first hand experience of the people that are involved in the news story. Interviews are also a minefield through which the journalist must walk with great care, ask the wrong question of the wrong person, or make the wrong interpretation, and the story can be grossly inaccurate. So the interviewer must be very careful while crafting the questions for the interview, because if you ask the wrong question, or if you ask a question to the interviewee that he is not interested to answer, then that interview session it can go grossly inaccurate. So the journalist he must carefully put together the questions that he must ask. A good interview is a form of art. It takes knowledge of how to read your subject. The interviewer must understand and listen to the person who's sitting right in front of him. Then only we can say that the interview it serves its purpose. So a good interview it is a form of art. The next topic, skills that are needed for conducting an effective interview. The first skill is preparation. You have to get to know the subject you're asking about. Impress the interviewee with the knowledge you already have. You have to do your homework, you have to prepare yourself and get to know the person that you are about to talk to. The next skill is the skill of crafting your questions. The best questions are open ended. They are conversation starters that produce an abundance of information. So the open ended questions, they are the WH questions that and the specific purpose of this open ended question is that they give abundance of information. They open up to you. So try to use open ended questions while crafting your questions. The next one, establish a relationship. A reporter should establish a rapport with the interviewee. The interviewee should feel free and comfortable, not scared and hostile. The interviewee should be comfortable. They should not be tensed or in a panic situation, because such a condition will not bring out the best answers in them. So it is the job of the interviewer to take care that they are at ease with their surroundings. So that is establish a relationship. The next point, listen up. You have to ask your questions and let the interviewee talk. Wait 10 seconds if you have to. Don't rush to fill the silence. Wait and see what they have to say. Listening is considered as one of the most important skills that is needed for an interviewer. The interviewer, he must listen, he must not just hear, but listen and understand what he is saying. And he must listen without any judgment. So, that is an essential skill. The next one, watch attentively. Be alert to what is said and how it is said. Look around the room or office for discovering his interest, taste, and personal preferences. The reporter should catch the interviewee's personality, physical appearance, and mood in a few concrete descriptive phrases. So basically, the interviewer, he must be observant, he must watch attentively to his surroundings. The next one, stay focused. Keep the interviewee on track when he or she deviates from the point. So, these are the essential skills that are needed in conducting an interview. Over to the next topic, that is language used. The interviewer must ask specific questions in plain language. So, the language that is used must be plain, it must be simple. The interviewer must be polite but firm with the interviewee who evades questions. So the interviewer must be polite and firm with the interviewee who tries to escape questions. There has to be an ambience of informality. Ask simple and friendly questions at the beginning to win the confidence of the interviewee. So, at first, ask simple and friendly, maybe even personal kind of question, not in an offending way. Okay, at the beginning to win the confidence of the interview, and there has to be an ambience of informality. Be respectful of boundaries. The interviewer should only explore and don't probe. The interviewer must have the sense to know the boundaries. He must know where to stop asking questions. The interviewer should only explore and don't probe. It is not the job of the interviewer to investigate what he is saying. He must not investigate into what the interviewee is saying, but he must only explore and he should not probe. So he must be respectful of boundaries. The next topic, the phrases used. The questions that a journalist asks in an interview is a reflection of his or her objective in conducting the interview. The prime commandment in interviewing is this: you shall study your subject like an enemy and deal him or her like a friend. So you can do all your homework. You can collect every single detail that you can find about the person that you are going to interview. But when he is right in front of you, you have to just sit back and listen and treat him like a friend and listen to what he is actually saying. So you shall study your subject like an enemy and deal him or her like a friend. The challenge is to identify the subject being interviewed. Who is he or she? So, the prime aim of the interviewer is to understand the real nature, the real character, or the real being of the person that is being interviewed. As an ancient Chinese martial arts dictum says, the enemy has many images and illusions. Destroy the illusion and you get to the real enemy. So the questions that are framed must be careful so as to understand the person much better. So over to the next set of topics, that is interrupting and markers for buying time to elicit more clarity. As we have already discussed, the interviewees, they should feel comfortable and respected throughout the entire interview. Thus, Interviews should avoid interrupting participants whenever possible. The interviews should avoid stopping participants whenever possible. While participants may digress in their responses, and while the interviewer may lose interest in what they are saying at one point or another, it is critical that they be tactful in their efforts to keep the participant on track and return to the subject matter in question. So the interviewer should be careful enough to keep that conversation on track. At the same time, the interviewer can ask for clarifications on vague, ambiguous, and peripheral answers. We have discussed before that the interviewer has to be polite, even if the interviewee is not answering properly. So, even though they are giving vague, ambiguous, and peripheral answers, or they are not answering properly or up to the point, the interview can further ask for clarifications. It is to be noted that interview is a conversation that is usually between two people to elicit or to deduct information on behalf of an unseen audience. It is often a conversational exchange of information that can produce a level of intelligence that neither party could achieve alone. And moving on to the next set of topics, how to use linguistic ploys in writing a profile, then use of connectives to help progression and continuity. When you read the profile that you have written based on the interview, you get an idea about the way we organize sentences contextually to bring clarity. So the interviewer, while noting or while writing a profile or a feature, he tries to construct the sentence or organize the sentences contextually according to the context to bring in more clarity. You can identify the use of clause complex in the interview as well as in the profile that you have written. So when the interviewer is checking the profile as well as the interview, he can find that there is an abundant use of the clause complex. A more familiar term for this is more specifically the compound or complex sentence. So in an interview or in a feature, we can abundantly find the use of compound and complex sentences. The interviewers or the reporters, they organize sentences contextually to bring clarity. For example, the compound or complex sentences, they try to blend in different ideas. They try to bring together or link two different ideas. As in this case, I like music and I like painting. That is an example of compound sentence. And she went to the library but couldn't find him. That is a complex sentence. So these are the connectives that I used to write a report based on the interview. And the next section is the art of questioning. There are several types of questions. The first one is open questions that begin with WH questions and they demand an elaborate answer. We know the question words like why, when, who, where, all these words or all these open questions, they demand an elaborate answer. So the interviewers often use the open questions. The next one, closed questions like yes or no questions or those that start with auxiliary verbs like will you help you to get specific answers. So using yes or no questions or the questions that begin with auxiliary verbs also help to give specific answers, to get specific answers. The next one is the negative questions like why didn't you or haven't you. Even though the negative questions, they are considered aggressive, but they succeed in opening up controversial areas, which makes a good copy. So even though these questions, these negative questions, they sound aggressive, the interviewers often use these questions also to open up controversial areas. The next one is the echo questions, like repeating the last part of the question. And it tends to give more information. Example, I never said that he is a liar. And the interviewer asking back, never? So that opens up an answer. So that is echo question. And the next one, the Proust questionnaire. So the Proust questionnaire is a questionnaire about one's personality. These questions are supposed to reveal the personality of the subject and hence are often used for celebrity interviews. So the Proust questionnaire is basically used for celebrity interviewers and they are meant for understanding one's personality. They reveal the personality of the subject, right? So that is the art of questioning. That's all for today's discussion. As assignment, write down what are the skills needed for an effective interview and explain the art of questioning. Thank you and have a lovely day.